When I first met Peter, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. He was charismatic, attentive, and ambitious. We fell in love fast and hard, and before I knew it, we were exchanging vows under a cascade of fairy lights. I imagined our life together would be everything I'd ever dreamed of: stable, passionate, and full of trust. But after 5 years of marriage, things weren't as idyllic as I'd hoped. We had settled into routines that felt more like obligations than shared joy. Our conversations became functional, focused on schedules, bills, and the occasional polite inquiry about each other's day. The spark we once had felt buried under the weight of everyday life. Peter was the one who first brought up the idea. "What if we tried something new?" he asked one evening after dinner, his tone casual but his eyes carrying an intensity that caught me off guard. "Something new?" I asked, puzzled. "In our marriage. You know, to spice things up." At first, I thought he was suggesting a vacation or maybe a couple's retreat. But Peter had something far more daring in mind. "I want us to explore. With other people," he said, his words hanging in the air like a storm cloud. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. But he didn't laugh with me. Instead, he reached for my hand, his grip firm but reassuring. "Before you say no, hear me out," he said. "I think it could bring us closer. Imagine experiencing something completely new and then coming back to each other, stronger than ever." I was stunned. The thought of opening our marriage felt like a betrayal of the vows we'd made. But Peter was relentless. He showed me articles, testimonials, even a couples forum where people raved about how ethical non-monogamy had saved their relationships. After weeks of heated discussions and emotional debates, I reluctantly agreed to try. My consent wasn't born from enthusiasm but from a desperate hope to salvage what we had. Peter was the one who arranged everything. He suggested a couple of men he'd met online, assuring me they were safe, respectful, and interested in exploring with us. The idea of being with someone else terrified me, but Peter's enthusiasm was infectious. When the day came, I was a bundle of nerves. The 2 men, Marcus and Darnell, arrived at our home with an air of confidence that made me feel both intimidated and intrigued. They were polite, charming even, and their presence filled the room with an energy that was both exhilarating and terrifying. Peter acted as the orchestrator, guiding the evening with a strange mix of detachment and involvement. He wanted me to feel free, he said, to explore without fear of judgment. As the evening unfolded, I found myself swept up in a whirlwind of emotions. There was guilt, yes, but also a strange sense of liberation. For the first time in years, I felt desired in a way that reignited something deep within me. But the aftermath was far more complicated than I'd anticipated. Peter, who had been so eager to push the boundaries of our relationship, began to withdraw. He assured me he was fine, that he'd wanted this for us, but his actions told a different story. He became distant, his once eager eyes clouded with doubt and jealousy. And then there was the emotional bond I hadn't expected. Marcus and I had stayed in touch, initially at Peter's insistence, but our conversations soon took on a life of their own. We talked about everything: our dreams, fears, and the parts of ourselves we felt no one else understood. It wasn't long before I realized I was emotionally entangled. What had started as an experiment to save my marriage was now a source of turmoil. Peter discovered my messages with Marcus one evening when I'd left my phone on the kitchen counter. The confrontation that followed was explosive. "You were supposed to come back to me," he yelled, his voice cracking under the weight of his anger and hurt. "I didn't plan this, Peter," I cried. "You wanted this, remember? You pushed for it. I wanted us to be closer, not for you to fall for someone else." The irony of it all was suffocating. We'd ventured into uncharted territory to save our marriage, and now we were standing on the precipice of its collapse. In the weeks that followed, we tried to piece together what was left of our relationship. Therapy sessions were filled with accusations, confessions, and tears. Marcus became a ghost, a memory I clung to and resented in equal measure. The journey of infidelity and exploration had left scars, but it also forced us to confront truths we'd been avoiding. Peter admitted he'd suggested opening our marriage out of a fear of losing me, a misguided attempt to reignite our connection. I confessed my own feelings of loneliness and neglect, emotions I hadn't fully understood until they were brought to the surface. In the end, we chose to rebuild. It wasn't easy, and some days it felt impossible. But through the pain and chaos, we rediscovered parts of ourselves and each other that had been buried for years. Our marriage isn't perfect, and it never will be. But it's real, messy, and honest in a way it never was before.